All right, I'm continuing with this project for you newbies that are sewing for the first time. Let me show you how I do this. You might as well watch if you're interested. All right, I have my revised free PDF, Do It Better Yourself, ABB. I have a front, I have a back. The front has the full bust adjustment. That's all I do on the front. And the back has sway back, round back. Let's talk about how do you know if you need to have those. If, when you wear a store-bought garment, you're always pulling it forward, and you walk around, you do things, and you eat your lunch, and you're like pulling your thing forward all the time, you have a round back. And your back needs more fabric than you have allowed it to have. So it's pulling fabric to itself. So to stop that, we simply give it more fabric, and then your blouse will stay put and you won't be pulling it forward all the time. Very easy to know if you have a round back. How much should you make the round back be? Start with 1/2 inch. Everybody always needs a 1/2 inch. Sometimes you need 3/4, sometimes you need 1. Look at a mirror. You know, if you're like this, you're probably going to need at least 1 inch, maybe 1.5 inches or 2 inches. You know, if you're like me, I need 1 inch. But nobody's perfectly straight like a stick. Maybe Viv is. Viv just makes stuff out of the pattern envelope and it just looks like somebody special tailored it for her. Okay, that's how you know if you have a round back. How do you know if you have a sway back? If you have a sway back, and you try your pattern on, your pattern will swing. The sideways seam will not hang straight down, it'll swing forward. And when you pull it up in the back, it pulls this backwards and makes it hang straight. So that's how you know if you have a sway back. If you're trying it on, I'll show you in a little while when I get this cut out, okay? We'll see if I have one still, if my fixed it. Your side seam should hang straight down on your side. Perpendicular. Don't you love that word, perpendicular? Perpendicular to the floor. Your side seam should be. Okay? Round back, sway back. Full bust adjustment. One girl said, my pattern's 38, I'm 38. I said, well, fine, just cut it out like that. She said, but I'm a D. If you're a D, the pattern's a B. But I happen to know that Viv is larger than a B. And she just makes sure there's enough room to go around her bust. And she cuts it out and she makes it and it fits. But you may find that when you do it, depending on where your boobs start. My boobs start way down here. I'm flat as a board right here. You know, you could fry an egg on me right there, flat. And then all of a sudden I have these boobs way down here. But if you're full, and you're like Dolly Parton and you start out up here, you may not need a full bust adjustment because you may be able to suck up the extra fabric they put up here in your size of a bust. If I was to make a 42 bust pattern, cut it out, there would be so much fabric up here, it would look horrible. That's why I start out with a pattern for my upper bust, which is 36. 36. My full bust is 42. Read your directions. Look at your instructions. I showed you those in that DIY company. Very, very good. They tell you how to figure out if you need a full bust adjustment. But that's how you determine it. I'm very small in the shoulders. I'm small here. I'm small here. And then everything just decides to be a different body from there down. It's like, oh wait, we made that too thin, let's grow. So, okay. You will know when you make your first test garment. And then you simply go back and you will make, in fact, you'll know it when you do it out of this paper. So let me show you how we do the paper. This is the pattern ease. Remember, it's the super wide one. So I have taken my front and my back, and I'm seeing how much length I need to cut them out, and then I'm going to take my rotary cutter, and no, I did not make this blouse, but I do love it. I wish I could make it. Bought it years ago. All right, remember this fabric is double. This is pattern ease. I'm going to cut off the fold there, okay? So now I have 2 pieces of pattern ease, and I have a front and a back. I'm simply going to trace around them on these 2 pieces of pattern ease. What are you going to trace around them with, Joy? Well, now that's another question, isn't it? If you do it with the air erasable friction pens, if you ever touch it with an iron, it's gone, but once it's cut out, maybe you don't care. If you do it with a felt tip magic marker Sharpie, which is what I'm going to use, you need to put something underneath it or it's going to bleed through and get all over your table. Okay? So, I am simply going to get, this is a Crayola one. The Crayola one does not come off with iron. It comes off if you wash it, so you could use the Crayola one. And I don't know if it goes through or not. And then let me tell you about the back. I put a note in my last video, but you may not have seen it. The back has the sway and the round in it now. So it's no longer straight, but you still can put it on the fold. You match up this very top, tippy top to the fold, and this bottom to the fold. I've shown you guys this before. It may go over the fold and not reach the fold in this area, but just line up the top, line up the bottom, and place it on the fold. You're never, ever, ever going to know it wasn't perfectly straight from the top to the bottom, okay, when you're wearing it. Okie doke. Let me trace this, cut it out, pin it, and I'll come back and show it to you on my body. All right, let me show you what I've got. I have a back and I have a front. Now I have noticed that this pattern has this odd, let me see if I can hold it up against something you can see it on, has this odd shaped shoulder. You can't see there, that's white. It's kind of an odd shape. It like curves up here and does something, you know, usually the shoulder's straight. This one's not. So, something you want to check, and I'll show you when I put it on me, is the shoulder slope. That's very, very important. If your shoulder slope is off, it can cause all kinds of wrinkles and problems. And the fortunate part for us on this garment is it's going to be out of a knit. And a knit, you know what a knit is? A knit stretches. Sometimes it stretches just one way, sometimes it stretches the other way, sometimes it stretches real far in one way and a little bit in the other way. You want a knit. An ITY knit is perfect. A cotton knit is fine. Just make sure it has stretch. Not just a little bit, but a lot. Okay? Let me see. How much does this have? I didn't make this shirt, but let's check the stretch. If I take 5 inches, it stretches 3 past 5, so it goes to 8 inches. So that is really good stretch for a t-shirt, okay? Knit comes back in and kind of hugs around your, sometimes too much around certain places, but it's wonderful to sew with and wonderful to wear, very comfortable. So somebody said what kind of fabric? Knit, 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 knit. Lightweight knit, okay? So, here's my front, my back. That's my back. See how straight the back is? Straight as can be. And this is the front. They both go on the fold. So, what am I going to do now? Now, I am going to take a red pencil, or a red something, and I am going to mark the seam allowance. Because I am going to pin this together as though I was sewing it. I'm going to pin it together with pins on the stitching line. And then I am going to try this pattern ease. Now remember, pattern ease doesn't stretch. It doesn't stretch at all. But we're making this out of a stretchy knit. So, when we put this on, what we really need to be sure of is that center front meets our center front, center back meets our center back. It can be really tight fitted because we're not making it out of paper and we're not making it out of a woven. We're making it out of a knit, and a knit allows you negative ease, which means it stretches. Okay? So there you can see I have marked in red my 3/8 inch seam line. I'm going to come up here on the shoulder. The best way to determine the shoulders and what you need to do with them is this. Make yourself the paper test pattern that is called Palmer Plesh. They're the ones that came up with Try the Paper On system. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Philly and I love it. And we learned it before we got the SureFit designs. And we have used the SureFit designs and Palmer and Plesh together for years and years and years and years. And you guys met Philly, and you saw how she sews. She makes beautiful garments that fit her, and she has to do a lot. She's got Dolly Parton boobs, and so she has to do a lot of fitting adjustments. Plus, she's short. So, there it is. You can see I have a seam line at the shoulder, a seam line at the side seam. I am going to put the front and the back together. I am going to pin them on the side seam. I am going to pin them up here at the shoulder, and then I am going to try this on. And then I'll come back and show you. I have my patternees pinned together like I told you. You can see it's pinned up here on the shoulders, 3/8 inch. Pin it going away from your throat and start at the seam line. If you pin it aiming at your throat, you're going to say, oh my God, I wish I'd listened to Joy. And I have it pinned down the side seam. Now this is a very simple pattern. But remember, once we get this part done, making sure it fits us, we can turn this into a whole bunch of different patterns, okay? It will be wonderful. Now, if I wasn't talking to the whole wide world right now, I would take my shirt off and do this with my underwear on. But since I'm talking to the whole wide world, I'm just going to try it on over the shirt I have on. Okay? You want to pull it all the way up as high as it will be when it's a garment. And I have this wonderful triple mirror. If you have the wall space to put one on, oh my gosh, get a triple mirror. It's fabulous. Okay. I'm trying to pull my sleeve out of the hole here. Now, what we want to do, we're going to hold it in the front. Right there, we're going to hold it. And then we're going to pull it up to our neck. Then we're going to take our other hand and pull it around to the back. And we're going to make sure that it comes to our center back. Your center butt, and your center back. See there? And it does. It does, it does. That is wonderful. Now I can see that I need a correction that I always need in everything I make. I told you about how I'm just bones up here. I mean, you could knock on me like a door. So, usually every single pattern has too much room up here because most women, you know, they're full up here too. I'm not. And so I almost always, see all this puffy right here? That puffiness? I have to take a tuck like that. Always do. I have to take a tuck right here. If I don't take that tuck right there in this neckline, it's going to get, now this is going to be a cow neck top and it would fill in that area. It probably would look fine, but just because I know I need it, I'm going to go ahead and do it. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a cut over to the armhole, and then I'm going to cross it over right here. And I can tell in the mirror, how do you like the black ink all over my fingers? It's not a tattoo. I need to cross it over 3/8 of an inch. 3/8 and 3/8 is 6/8. So I actually need 3/4. But when you're folding it, you know, you just measure half of it. So, super duper. Then that will hang down straight. You can see it hangs down straight now, and there's no poof. See, it lays against my chest, see? And that's what we want. Now, the next thing we're going to look at is this shoulder. Remember I told you the shoulder was shaped kind of funny? Usually the shoulder seam on a garment is straight. This one's curved. I don't know why it's curved. But I can tell right now I need to pinch it right here. Right here. And then I will draw from that point up to this seam line at the neck, and I will just straighten that out right there. Right there. I'm going to put a pin. I'll steal a pin from somewhere. Where do I have a pin at? I'll steal a pin from there, and I'll put the pin in like that. Now that, see? Now that lays on my shoulder properly. When you get to this stage, when you're trying the paper on, you can fix just about everything else that's going to need your attention. Okay? Now, I have not messed with the sleeve yet. So now I am going to go and I'm going to cut out the sleeve, and I'm just going to measure across the sleeve. You can see I have skinny arms. And I am going to usually take in the arms because they're usually too big for me. A lot of people will have to let the arms out. Either way, I'm sure those instructions show you how to do that because they're very complete. So I'm going to go cut out the sleeve, then I'm going to take this, not that paper pattern. I am going to take this front and I'm going to take this back after I fix the shoulder. How are you going to fix the shoulder, Joy? I'm going to draw a line from that point with the pin up to here, and then I'm going to measure 3/8 inch above it, and then I'm going to cut the rest off. And that's all. And then this one here, in the bust, I'm going to cut a line. I'm going to make a cut from here over to the armhole. Here to the armhole. All the way to it, but not through it. And then I'm just going to cross over the neckline. I'll take a picture, or I'll video that when I do it, okay? I'll be back. I'm going to put a red line there on that pin where I marked the shoulder. Now that's bringing that shoulder down a whole ½ inch. So you can see how that would be a very important thing to do. Then what I'm going to do after I do that, I may have to lower this point here under my arm because that's going to shorten that area. There's actually a super good palmer plush way to do this, and I love it, but I'm not going to take the time to do that on this simple pattern. Palmer and Plesh. Look them up on YouTube. Search Palmer and Plesh, P-L-E-T-S-C-H. Palmer and Plesh. And you can watch the new generation. Patty Palmer's my age, and her daughter's taken over now. And you can watch them do fitting. That's how I learned it, how Philly learned it. Okay. So, I'm going to come up here on my mark. Here, I'll put a dot where the seam lines cross at the neck, and where the seam lines cross at the shoulder, and then I'm going to show you an arrow how far I'm coming down out there. See? I'm going to move this point down to where I put that pin in. And then I'm going to draw a line from here over to this dot. Well, let's do that. And that will straighten this shoulder out. I don't know why the shoulder is so crooked. That's really bizarre. I wondered about that when I saw it. Alright, now I'm going to go up 3/8 inch. And I'm going to draw another line. And then I am going to cut that out. Now I have to do this on the front and the back, of course. So, there's how much. Hello, come up. There's how much I've cut off. See? That would have made that shoulder just so baggy on me, and it would have caused wrinkles down in here. All the way down in here by the arm, there would have been all these wrinkles. Okay, so I fixed that on the front. Don't forget, you have a back. You have a back, Jack, and you have to fix it too. Let me make sure I'm coming down ½ inch, and I am. And then we'll go up 3/8 inch because that's the seam line. Now another thing you can do, it's called insurance. It's Sandra Betsina calls it insurance. And that is make your seam lines wider on your first one. Make your seam lines wider and give yourself some insurance. All right? Now the other thing that I needed to do was fix this droopy front. So I am going to draw a line. There's several ways you can do this, but this is the way I'm going to do it. Okay? I'm going to draw a line over there. I don't know that I need to put the seam allowance, but I'm going to. Some of these things you just kind of figure out as you go. Cut the line, jump the seam. Now, I am going to take this and cross it over 3/8 inch. That takes 3 off of this and 3 off the bottom, the way I see it. 3/8 inch. 3/8 inch, just like that. I think that only takes 3/8 off, actually. So 3/8 and 3/8 was 3/4. I'm going to do a half. I am going to break that in half, and I'm going to do 1/2. Because, like I said, it's going to be in a knit, and this is paper. So, I'm going to move that up 1/2 inch. And especially it being a cow neck, I think it's going to be just fine. So, what do you do now? Now you've got this big giant jog in your round neckline. We have a jog. What we're going to do is we're going to get some paper and we're going to fill in that hole. I'm putting in the same thing that I'm using, Pattern Ease. Pattern Ease is sure to please. Okay, then you're going to take get one of these. If you're going to sew and you're going to make clothes, you have to have one of these. They're not expensive. You have to have one. Because every neck curve and every arm curve and every hip curve is made with this. It's called a French curve. A French curve. A lot of people make it. This one is called Fashion Ruler. I think there's some called Styling Ruler. I'm sure you can get it on Amazon. Peggy Sager sells them. Lots of them, everybody that sews has to have these things. So you're going to line this up with the bottom, with the top, come back in here and fill in this area and remark your curve. Remark your curve. So I'm going to show you the new part of this. I'm going to color it in red so you can see the new part that wasn't there before. That's the new part. My camera to me is upside down, you guys, so. The new part. And so now I will just cut that new curve, but I have taken out that extra fullness that my upper chest does not want. I would presume that you could do the same thing opposite and make it opener if you needed more room there. I don't know why you couldn't. You have. Okay, so that's one more little fix to the front, one more little fix to the shoulder. Now what I'm going to do is measure the armhole opening. I know that I need about a 19-inch armhole. So I am going to measure this opening on the seam allowance. On the seam allowance, which is 3/8 inch. Because I want to make sure I still have enough room to get the silly thing on my body now that I've brought the shoulder down. Does that make sense, guys? If you take it away someplace, it might affect another place on the pattern. Now when I change that neck curve, that's not going to change anything else. That's just going to make it agree with my shape. That's all it's going to do, okay? So now, here's another thing you guys will want to buy. I'm going to have to do link duty on everything. I'm going to be rich, rich, rich. This is called the Curve Runner. I'll put a link below. It's wonderful, amazing, fabulous, awesome, and marvelous. You need to get one. It's kind of a new invention. I can't figure out the camera. There we go. It's called the Curve Runner. curve runner, and it's simply a ruler that you roll. It's wonderbar. So I'm going to start at 0 up here at the seam line, and I'm going to roll it around. Keep rolling. I have a pin there and it's stuck. I'm going to have to take the pin out and move it down. It doesn't like to roll over pins. Okay, let's start over at 0. Ta-da! Can you see? Yes, you can. Okay, keep going, keep going, keep going. I've passed 12, and all the way up to here is 6 1/4. So it's 12 plus 6 is 18 1/4, and I said I need 19, didn't I? So I am going to lower this curve. I'm just going to lower it down. It'll be very easy. You take your same thing, your fashion ruler, find the curve that's already there. I think the curve that's already there goes this way. Get a table. Use your kitchen table if you don't have a sewing room yet. That's what I used to use. And then I had to always put it away to cook dinner. So match the curve that the pattern company did. Move your ruler down and make a new curve. Okay? And that's what you do. Fiddle with it, fiddle with it. There we go. Now that's going to lower that down. And I'm going to lower it over here. Same thing again. It wants to go this way. And we'll go down, down, down. You can't learn it unless you do it. You can't learn it unless you do it. And it's not near as scary as you think it is. Oh my goodness, when I was young, I would not have cut into my paper pattern. Oh my goodness, I would not have dreamt of it. Okay, so now we're going to have to make another 3/8 inch seam line there, of course, and lower that down. But before we do, let's see if we've got 19 inches yet. You need to enjoy this hobby if you're going to do it, because it certainly does involve some work. But I enjoy it. Right there's 12. Now your arm kind of turns around all crazy there, but you have to keep going. Now I'm at 7 1/4, so I have added 1 inch. So I've got 12 plus 7 1/4, so that is 19 1/4, and that's perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Now, a good thing to have done would have been to measure the armhole before I lowered that, but I know I lowered it a 1/2 inch, right? So I've basically lowered this 1/2 inch down here. So I'll redraw the seam line on my new curve, 3/8 inch. I hope I'm not confusing everybody. Just remember, you lower it at the top because of your shoulder slope. You'll have to lower it under your arm, unless that's just already big enough for you. 19 inches is my go-to. I think when I do a woven, I do 20 inches. There you go. So now you can see my new seam line. It's in blue. You get it very good there because that was covered up. Go the other way, Joy. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so I'm going to cut on that blue line there, and I'm going to cut on that blue line there. And that's going to be my new pattern. And that will go under my arm now. That will go under my arm. Now you know I just cut off my point, so I'm just going to draw another one in. These 2 notches don't mean a thing other than the single notch says, I am the front. The double notch, which is still here, here's the double notch. That's the double notch. Don't you love the way Viv cuts her notches? It absolutely cracks me up. The way she cuts her notches. Okay, so that's the double notch. Double notch says, I am the back. Single notch says, I am the front. Your sleeve is going to have a double notch and a single notch. And the only way you will know if you're putting your sleeve in right is if you have single notches together and double notches together. All right, let's talk about sleeves. Take a measuring tape. Put it around your arm, fullest part of your arm. Mine measures 10.5. Take your sleeve. We're going to make the short sleeve. I'm going to make the short sleeve. Fold the hem up. Put the seam allowance, 3/8 inch on there. Measure from seam allowance to seam allowance. And I come up with 13.5. My arm measures 10.5. 13.5 minus 10.5 leaves 3 inches left over. That means there's 3 inches of ease in this sleeve. Remember, this is a knit pattern. Knits have negative ease. So you want, see, look at this one right here. See, that's pretty close to me. It's touching me. It's not just hanging all out here like an elephant ear. So I like my sleeves kind of close. So, fold it together, pin it on the seam, put the front notch in the front, stick it up in your armpit and over your shoulder. And look at it. Now you can see that this has too much ease for me. I can get my whole hand up in there. You have to have, in a woven, I know, at least 2 inches of ease. In a knit you could have less because of the stretch. But I'm going to cut this down. I'm going to make it smaller for me because I don't want 3 inches of ease. So how am I going to do that? What I usually do is I measure down here at the bottom and I come in how much I want to come in. So I'm just going to come in a 1/2 inch on each side, and then I'm going to draw a line up to this point and up to this point. Let me do it in a color you can see. Let's do it in blue. So I am going to make this sleeve 1 inch closer to me than it is now. 1/2 inch down here. I know you can't see what I'm doing right now, but I'll show you. I will show you. All right, now don't do what I just did. Don't do what I just did. There are several blue lines here. There's the blue line out here and there's a blue line in here. You have to remember in your brain that you're ignoring this blue line in here. The blue line in there was for a different sleeve. So a real good idea to do is to go in and take black and cross off that line. That is the wrong line. Okay? See what I did? I've crossed off that wrong line because I'm measuring from it, and that's going to make the sleeve way too tight. Be sure you mark off the wrong line, especially you new seamstresses. Your line's out here. This is the short sleeve. That's for the long sleeve. We're not doing the long sleeve. Let me see. I may have done this side right. Yeah, I did that side right, and I did this side wrong. So this side, I put the blue dot in 1/2 inch from the red 3/8 inch seam allowance. Okay? Over here, I used the 1/2 inch from that blue line, which was a boo-boo. So this is going to have to come off, and I hate that. I hate a messed up pattern. So what I do is I take, since I can't iron that away, this is wash away, I'm going to take this, cover up your boo-boo tape, and I'm going to cover up my boo-boo. See, so now it's gone. Gone. So now I'm going to do it again. Okay. Now we're going to come in 1/2 inch from the red seam allowance. Yep, right there. And then we're going to draw our line up to the armhole. I've made another mistake. This is what will make your garment come out wrong. It seems like such an easy thing to do. You can screw it up more ways than I can tell you about. Cut the sleeve out like it is. What I've done, you probably already noticed it. I corrected the sleeve from the cutting edge up here. I corrected the sleeve from the sewing edge down here. You have to choose one or the other. You can't choose the cutting edge one place and the seam line another place. So let me fix it again and I'll show it to you correctly. Okay, my friends, that's a lesson in not giving up even when you screw up several times in a row. Take a deep breath. Cut out a new sleeve if you have to. Use a whole bunch of this correction tape if you need to. Just keep on, keep it on. Don't give up because you get something wrong. You know I've been doing this since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. And I screwed it up twice. Okay? So, now you can see my proper correction. If I'll hold it the right direction. I used the edge of the pattern. This is the cut line. 3/8 inches where you sew. I used the cut line. I came in 1/2 inch from the cut line and tapered it up to the edge that's already there. Okay, so I stayed out here and then I came in 1/2 inch. Now what you do is you fold up the 1-inch hem, then you cut on that line. See there? You want to do this because when you fold this up to hem it, it will reach over here. It will reach the edge and it will sew perfectly when you fold it up inside. If you just cut this straight down and you kept going with that angle and you cut this off, there's no way on earth you could hem it up. It wouldn't work. So, always give yourself the hem allowance over here. I'm sure it was already in the original pattern. It was. Look here. This is the original for the long sleeve. And you can see how the hem comes down straight and then juts out. That's why it does that. So it can fold up into itself and match the edge. Alright? End of tutorials for this moment. I'm going to go downstairs, see who's making noise, fix some lunch, then I'll be back and I might have this cut out of fabric and show it to you actually on me. Alright, I just got done editing this little video and I've decided to stop it right here because, as you know, I spent like 8 hours the other day making this whole thing and I'm having to chop it up into segments because it's just way too long. But I'm wanting to go into detail for you new seamstresses. They say seamstresses is only if you sew for other people. Well, I think that's crazy because I don't like the word sewist. And I don't like the word S-E-W-E-R because that's sewer. So to me, if you sew, you're a seamstress. Now I want to show you something. How do you know if you need an FBA? If you put on a regular store-bought t-shirt, if you put on a woven blouse, if you put on a pullover blouse, if you put on a dress, if you put on any garment, and you end up with these things right here. Do you see that? I can't see it in the camera. Everything's just all black. But hopefully you can see these wings here. Do you see the wings? That is screaming, you need a bus dart, lady. Why? Why? Why does it make these little triangle wings here? The reason it makes the wings here is because your body needs more room to come down from your neck, your shoulder area, and go over your humps and your lumps and get down to the bottom. On your side, you don't have humps and lumps and bumps. At least not in the same proportion. And so you don't need as much fabric over here. This is Peggy Sager's 101, y'all. See? If I took that fabric out right there, there wouldn't be a wing. There wouldn't be anything there. It would just lay flat because I do not need as much fabric from here to here as I need from here to here. That's why they take darts, because your body wants a dart. Okay? Unless you're flat-chested. I remember my little sister, my sisters never watched my videos. When she was becoming a teen, I don't know if she was 13 or 14 or what, Mother took her to Streets probably, we always went to Streets then, to buy her a bra. And so, you know, back then they always had the older ladies and they were always dressed up really nice in dresses and stockings and heels and everything. People used to be so classy. And the ladies would come and they would help you. And so the lady was measuring my sister trying to figure out what bra. And I guess they kept being too big, too big, too big. And so the lady hollered out to some other clerk and she said, "We need a AAA in here." My sister came home. She was furious, furious. That lady announced the entire store. I need AAA. Cracked me up. I needed a double A myself, so my God, we're 13 years old, 14. Oh, life is so stressful when you're young. But then it gets even more stressful when you're older. I don't know what the best age to be, but you know what? I'd bet on the age I am now. I'm really liking this one. All right, guys, I'm chopping this off. The next video will show you how I make it up in the fabric and try it on and show it to you, and I'll show you how to make the collar and everything, okay? But bye for this time.